It's Sean Smith from Black Push. I've been devastated by what I've seen coming out of the border with our Haitian community. People being beaten, people riding on horses, people who are trying to get to safety for them and their family and their kids being turned around, or just being deported back to a country that is not even able to take them in right now. I am looking to make a difference in this area, and I need your help. Go to our website now, www.blankpush.org, and where you can make a donation and sign our petition, and where we stand together and say to America that this is not okay, this is not right, and we won't tolerate it. This is not the America I know. This is not the country in which we are built upon and founded upon. We have a lot of work to do, and we have to do it together. So join us in this journey as we support our Haitian brothers and sisters, that human rights is very valuable, and we have to stand together, we have to work together, and let's do this. Let's support our brothers and sisters. Go to our website now at www.blankpush.org.
Hey everyone, it's October 2nd and I'm super excited. We have one of my good friends here with me. We have Dr. Sherman Scott from the Cobb Ministerial Alliance, who is here with me today at the table. And of course we have the great James Henderson, or Deacon James Henderson. Since we have pastors here today, let's throw out the titles. No, please not. Definitely not. And Dr. Sherman Scott, thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to kind of do is that I wanted to start by kind of introducing Cobb Ministerial Alliance, right? What is it that you guys stand for? What are some of the things that you guys are doing right now? Some of the work that you guys do, your platform. Tell people who you guys are.
So Cobb Ministerial Alliance is an alliance that is brought together for ministers and parishioners in the Cobb County area of Georgia. We stand for four things. We like to say that we're all about sales, community empowerment, economic development, legacy securement, and spiritual enrichment. If it falls in those four buckets, and if it affects the county of Cobb, we're all in it. We have great partnerships with law enforcement, with the judicial branch, with those that's just connected out and about in the nonprofit arena in Cobb County. We've been doing some great things. Coming up on October the 6th, we are actually heading the Faith in Blue initiative for our Sheriff Craig Owens and the Sheriff office there on October the 6th, live on Facebook. We're doing a symposium. And then on October the 8th at 12 noon, we're doing a luncheon. The sheriff will be there. We'll be talking about where we're going, sales, turning sales into classrooms. We'll be talking about faith, blue, and beyond. We never just want to see something where we're dealing with a day, but we want to deal with not only the day, but thereafter.
Right.
We're not there just for a march or a parade and then have no effects afterwards. We want to make sure that we have those long-standing effects that will help our communities be better. Then on October the 10th at 1 o'clock, we'll be marching in the South Cobb area. This is unique because when we sat down and strategized and put it together, we wanted to make sure that we was anchored with people that's actually in the community, not going in for a photo op, but actually going in and partnering with Cool Kids Inc. That is a wonderful organization, partnering with Family Life Restoration Center, and then churches within that area. So while we'll be marching and having a walk with the clergy as well as the sheriff office and those community members, we wanted to be very clear that this is not just about October the 10th, but this is about faith, blue, and beyond. We are partnering to get a better Cobb in that area.
And one of the things I love so much about what it is that you say is that you always say to me, it's not about being reactive, it's about being proactive.
Absolutely.
And what does that mean for you? Like when I know what it means, obviously, but tell everybody, like, what does that mean for you about the difference between the two?
Yeah, so we're not an organization. We'll deal with problems as they arise, but we want to make sure that we're able to have some foresight have some research, know where the problems currently exist, build relationships, and be able to discuss with individuals instead of just looking for someone, waiting for someone to fail. That shows that there's a lack of reviewing the empirical data. There's enough data out here for us to see things. One of the programs we did, we'll be doing coming up again this year, is the state of Black Cobb. How are we doing when it comes to houses? How are we doing economically? How are we doing relationally? How are we doing psychologically? What is our obesity rate? We want to see, how are we doing when it pertains to health, the state of Black Cobb. So therefore, we don't want to cry foul thereafter, oh, someone got killed or someone didn't have medical insurance. We want to make sure that we are aware of where any inequity lies, any disenfranchisement lies, and we want to be able to address, encourage, and solve the issue before it becomes a major issue. Where's the leak? We want to make sure we deal with the leaks, so therefore we don't have to deal with a flood.
So one of the things that I love too about you is that one of the big things that's going on right now, we know we have SB 202 that has just passed recently in Georgia. Me and you had a conversation at your church today. I visited about SB 202. And one of the things that we've been finding out, we just had actually Helen Butler here from the People's Agenda. She did a whole class here. And one of the things that's interesting is that a lot of people who are ex-offenders are petrified, and they qualify to actually go out and register to vote, but they're petrified of signing up to register to vote because of the stipulations that come along. Like, some of the probation officers tell them, hey, well, we don't know if you registered to vote, when the only place they know to get that information from is the probation office, and they're telling them they don't even know. What are some of the issues that you find, if you find fault with SB 202? But what are some of the things that you think is important that as a community, for Cobb especially, that we need to make sure that we're looking out for, to make sure that we're protecting just the basic right to vote?
Yeah, I think just in general, period, we need to vote.
Right.
We need to make sure that we register to vote. We need to, leaders need to educate themselves on whatever parameters they set in place. And what we need to do is not be discouraged because of the propaganda, because of the possible fear. Like you said, ex-offenders. Well, I know if I'm an ex-offender, but I'm not breaking any laws now. There's no warrants out for me now. We need to get you registered to vote. There need to be a partnership with those in our communities. Churches is a great place to be able to have informational sessions. So therefore, we could begin to educate on a mass scale. And let me say this, we need to do it absence of any grants. We need to start coming together and see the need now instead of waiting to chase the dollars to be able to do it. We need to get out of that mentality, and we need to be proactively educating our communities now on every first Sunday or every first Saturday. We're going to make sure that in every section of Cobb or across the state, this is an initiative where we are faith in action, where we are educating, where we are registering individuals to vote. And then we need to show and partner with organizations to be able to show them the value in it. And we understand at the end of the day, they numbers that count. Is there a way that if we do this as a joint venture, that we can share in these numbers? Right. But at the end of the day, beyond the numbers, beyond the finances, we need to make sure that our people are educated, registered to vote, irregardless of party. Number one, you got to just make sure you're registered.
Right.
Then you don't need to just vote blindly either. You need to make sure that you're educated on whatever policies that is set before us, because you could be voting for the devil and he appears like an angel. You want to make sure that you know what those policies are. which is another step that we need to take, and that is to be able to have sessions where we break down what does this actually mean. You know, if there are issues on the ballot in layman terms. When I was in college, I didn't have enough time to read some of my books, or wasn't in all the way invested in a particular class. We had what you call Cliff Notes. Give me the summary. What is the important things that I need to walk away with? So therefore, we won't just go into a voting booth and just vote all D's or all R's, because it could be proven to be detrimental to us. One of the presidents that we are, the black community have beloved. In fact, many call him the first black president, and that was Bill Clinton. But he gave us 3 strikes. So he gave us this welfare reform that wasn't necessarily favorable. So while he was beloved and we called him the first black president, there were some issues that he gave that we need to be cognizant of, and we need to know that no one's perfect, but we need to make sure that our issues are being addressed. So with SB 202, I think the overall goal is to suppress the vote. So instead of suppressing it, we must overcome by registering and then educating, and take it from there.
You had a question, James?
Well, I'm sitting over here formulating. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I said I was over here formulating the questions for me.
So one of the things that too that I think we pretty much agree on, right? I'm all for the fact that we have to get money out of politics, but at the same time, it's funny how we in church preach money out of politics, but we also need to preach money out of church, because a lot of what we do and how we do it is driven by the money. Like, you don't know how many churches I've talked to recently who say, hey, we want to take a stance on social injustice. We want to take a stance on voter suppression. We want to take a stance on people being abused by the police system. And what I mean by abuse, the white and black. We see that that's happening across both margins, right? But how do I do that without affecting or losing members, right? And again, that goes back to the very dollar aspect of it.
Yeah.
So what do we say to churches who are really taking a back seat on these issues, basically because of the fear of the retaliation they receive?
I think when we look biblically, we see that Jesus was a social justice fighter. He spoke to hard issues of the day. I think that we must be educated in our approach. We must speak to injustice, no matter where it lies. Now, that's not necessarily preaching party.
Right.
Sometimes we get in trouble because we preach against party. We must preach against injustice.
Right.
Take the label off and deal with the root. So therefore, everyone should be involved in voting. A loss of human life should not separate you, but should concern you. One of the things that I was telling my evangelical brothers that is pro-life, they believe against the ban of abortion, no matter what, and that's to be commended. I'm not just pro-life; I'm for all life. And if you take that type of stand on a fetus, then take that type of stand when it comes to a 6'1", 225 pound African American male being slaughtered. Take that same stand with the life not only that you can't see, but take it with the life that you do see, that's jogging in a neighborhood.
Right.
Take that same stand for the young man that's walking out of the store. If that life that's in the womb matters, then one that's walking in the neighborhood should matter as well. And as you don't qualify a death for the unborn fetus, then don't qualify the taking of a life by saying he had a history of stealing. Don't qualify it by saying he looked like a stranger. You didn't know who he was in the neighborhood. So I think when we begin to see issues and not necessarily preach party, because regardless of whatever party, it's wrong. But I understand the threat because I lost members preaching party in my church, and it's just like sometimes it comes out when you stand a certain way. But then that's where I say we've got to educate ourselves and know how to be like that surgeon with the surgeon knife, and understand that we pastor all people. We pastor Republicans, we pastor Democrats, we pastor independents, and we pastor people that don't know where they stand. But we've got to show them that Jesus was involved. It's imperative we're involved, and it's actually an insult to all of our ancestors if we're not involved. The cost was too high. The debt is a debt that we can never ever repay because it cost some of their lives. Our right to vote is stained in the blood of our great grandmothers. And when you think about it, it wasn't too long ago, 1950, 1960. That's not too long. I was born in the 70s. So some of the things that we see, the injustices, let us not forget what it cost us.
Yeah, and now I'm just even thinking about that. One of the things that is so critical is that I was having a podcast maybe about a month and a half ago, and there was a young person on there, and I call them young because they're like 20, but I mean it's totally different type of young than what I am now, right? And their thing to me is like, what I'm tired of empty promises from the church, right? I'm tired of going to church and they're more concerned about judging me based upon my appearance or what my thoughts are, what my visions are. But on issues that I have an issue with, they're silent on, right? And it really was kind of a slap in the face to me because once again, even though I have this platform, I do stand in the pulpit every Sunday. And it's my job, it's our job to make sure that we kind of direct people to the truth and what the truth is. And for those young people who are out there saying like the church is not involved enough, the church is not visible enough, the church is worried about the wrong things right now, like being, like you say, like abortion rights, right? We're all over that. We're all over the rights of gay or people being able to marry whoever they want to marry, right? But yet on these type of issues, there's some churches seen George Floyd get a knee put on his neck and still stood up and said nothing about it. What do we say to young people to make? Because at the end of the day, the thing for me that worries me the most is I look at churches and I wonder 20 years from now. Is the way I remember my grandmother being in church, is that going to be the same church that we can sustain? And we can look at the numbers and it shows that younger people are not as involved in ministry and in church as my grandmother was and your grandmother was and my mom was. But what do we say to those young people?
Yeah, first of all, I was recently in a service and I was sitting listening to a sermon. And one of the things that struck me was this comrade says, "This is the way we do things in this house." All right. So I begin to think, when you come to my house, you may take off your shoes because I want to protect my carpet. When I come to your house, you may allow me to have shoes on. We all have houses. And we all had different rules to these houses. We must understand, number one, young people, whose house are you going to?
Right.
I particularly probably wouldn't be in a house that stays silent in the midst of someone being murdered. I couldn't do it. I think that as preachers, we need to, and I'm actually getting ready to go through this at the Life Church, recognizing the tribe of Issachar was so powerful because they was discerners of time. Sometimes you need to go through a complete renovation and not be married to anything. So what we're about to do is, as you see it today, tear it down and begin to construct what's relevant, what's going to reach, and what's going to speak to the people today. We are called as preachers to this present generation. Sometimes we're guilty, I have been, of wanting to have the church I grew up on that saved me and my generation to present it for this generation. You'll be hard pressed to find a 1989 Toyota Camry Midnight Blue with velour interior SE. Well, that was my first car. That was good for that generation. You can't even find hardly parts for it in this generation. So why do we think we're not changing Jesus,
Right.
but the presentation of him, the apparatus in which we present, has got to change? And so no longer, I grew up where we stayed in church all day. That ain't happening today.
They not happening.
That ain't happening. They going out. They got to get to Cascade Skates. They got to get it to wherever they're going. So we've got to be willing to get rid of some of the relics and understand it's not the sacredness is not in the relics, but the sacredness is in the relationship
and in the message. I mean, that's where we don't change what we preach.
Mm-hmm.
We may have a just approach in how we preach it, and I think teachers. I mean, that's what it's funny because I think about teachers all the time, and teachers do it all the time. I mean, they don't change. Algebra has not changed over the course of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you teach it, and it's who you teach it to.
Man, look at COVID. COVID has taught us all.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not going on that devilish social media. Well, Pastor, if the pastor didn't, he's closed.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He got on there quick.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's up to that. All right. Well, we've all made adjustments, and we all, made that pivot to where we had to embrace ministry in a different format. Now, as we go back and as we begin to walk into this new normal, again, we've got to challenge ourselves. What was effective?
Right.
What's not effective? And void yourself of any emotions or feelings. It's not an attack on you. It's just you can't preach 2 hours no more. It's not that you can't sing, but I don't know if we need the deacons raising the hymn prior to service. Or if they tied to that, well, we're going to go live. And so why don't y'all come in and raise the hymn at 9:45, and then we go live at 10. Y'all raise the hymn in the back. You just got to make sure what works. Let's get something that works and understand. Again, we're called to this present generation.
So, excuse me. That sounds like presentation, but with that being said, how do we go about as ministers in churches now? Because I want to first thank you for being here with us and Cobb Ministerial Alliance, being a part of Cobb County as it is. What's your presentation going to look like for this new generation? What kind of thumbprint or handprint will you all be leaving for these young people to come and be able to emulate after, when it's time for them to step up to the plate?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I appreciate being here, but I think that's when you have to have them get to the table and begin to say, okay, we have a white wall. What is it? How is it, we could speak to you? This is evangelism back in the day when we would send missionaries overseas. They would go and impose their thoughts and be on a hill and come down and minister to the indigenous people the way they felt they should be ministered to. Was proven to be not as an effective model as it could be. Instead of now becoming a part of the indigenous community, come up off the hill, live with the people, mingle with the people, then present to the people, prove to be a more effective model. And so it's the same concept that applies. Instead of reaching out into a community you know nothing about, bring them to the table. When it looks like, what does love look like? We need to be able to bring people that have been hurt by the church, people that walked away from the church, into a focus group to say, okay, what was your issue? What would be the type of church you would be drawn to. Now we know one thing can't change, and that's the foundation, and that is Jesus Christ. But everything else, let's construct a house that is reflective of the love of God, that will be powerful for this community, that's void of any egos, and that's willing to adjust, so therefore we can reach people in record number.
This sounds like I'm sitting down talking with you, because we can talk like all day, and that's our problem. That's the reason why I try not to make sure we got the set times with Dr. Scott. But man, I thank you for being here. I think the conversation needs to continue, and we look forward to continuing on October 23rd, where you'll be one of our guest speakers.
Yes.
But I wanted to just real quick, where can people find out more information about Cobb Ministerial Alliance, and as well as more information about the event?
So you can go to Cobb Sheriff office, look at their website. You can certainly send an email to cobbministers@gmail.com. That is the most effective way to reach us, cobbministers@gmail.com. And join us, man. Listen, be there. Go to Facebook, Cobb Clergy, Facebook, Cobb Clergy. Be there October the 6th, October the 8th, and October the 10th. I think change is coming to Cobb, and we need to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So, again, we thank Dr. Scott for coming on today. We thank everybody for who paid attention and watching today. We want to remind everybody that we'll be coming together October 23rd. If you go to www.blackpush.org, you can find out more information about our One in Court conference, where if you want to hear more from Dr. Scott, he'll be there live in person.
I'll be there.
With so many other guest speakers, Reverend Timothy McDonald, we have Gerald Griggs, and so many other wonderful people who will be there speaking at that event. So join us on October 23rd. And until next time, stay blessed and stay safe.